Welcome to neoscienceHub. Today we are going to interact with Dr. CVS Kiran Garu, who is the co-founder of Red Balloon Aerospace. Hi sir.
Hi.
Sir, take us to the morning of 27th May at the Indira Gandhi Stadium in Vijayawada. Vista rose to nearly 25 kilometers carrying payload from 7 partners, and then came the real test, holding altitude through day and night temperature swing that has destroyed every ordinary balloon within hours. At, at what moment did you know it was working, and what was going through your mind?
So on 27th, it was a fantastic day. Before the day, even the sun rose, we came to the stadium, fully raining, full of wind. Was very in a way where we couldn't even think of launching the balloon. We were very tense. The entire team was down, to tell you frankly. But somehow we took some rest during that rain, which was essential for us. And then by the time we came for the launch around 5 o'clock as planned, the rain subsided, the winds were very calm, the weather was very pleasant for a beautiful flight. But then we started putting all our infrastructure for the launch in the center of the Indira Gandhi Stadium, waiting, also speeding up the stuff before the chief guest and others arrive. The mission Sana Stratospheric ascent for near space applications is one name what we know, but there's also one more name called Srinivasan Anand Near Space Ascent, which is very close to our heart, to the credit of both the Mr. Srinivasan and Mr. Anand, who has been put their life in the field of lighter than air platforms from TAFR facility. So in their both credit as well as in the scientific credit, Stratospheric ascent for near space applications was the Sana mission Sana what we did on that day. We wanted to keep it for 24 hours, but almost after around 7.5 hours, we saw that the balloon was crossing the Indian borders, and if you do not terminate it, it goes into the international waters, where we had to terminate it. The payloads were successfully recovered the subsequent day at Raichur and were handed over to the customers. In addition to that, a lot of our own flight parameters were proved. The balloon material performed superb. We had excellent data what we got from the launch. In addition to this, one of the most important point is we were able to recover from the point of manufacturing the balloon till the launching, all the steps, integration and recovery of the payload, getting the payloads back to the customers and handing over to them, was a fantastic thing what we showcased for the first time in the country. And one more thing very important about mission Sana was the entire concept of these balloons. These balloons are called super pressure balloons, and these have the capability to withstand diurnal cycles, basically the day and night cycles. And once the balloon goes to a particular altitude, in the case of a super pressure balloon, it retains its altitude despite the changes in the day and night conditions. When you consider a zero pressure balloon, what happens, which has been traditionally been done in the country, what happens is that the zero pressure balloon, after it goes to a particular altitude, it stays over there for few hours and it cannot withstand the diurnal cycles. The gases, because of the day and night conditions, it slowly loses its altitude and eventually comes down. So this is what happens in a zero pressure balloon. So what we built are the super pressure balloons, and these form the structural building blocks for the airships, which are our primary interest. So in an airship, we plan to utilize these materials and these building blocks for making the entire airship. That's the reason we went on towards super pressure balloons.
So sir, could you please share our viewers about Red Balloon Aerospace? Why did you keep that name specially?
So Red Balloon happened in an organic way when we were working at Skyroot. A lot of customers used to come to both Sirish and me, and we used to talk to the customers for testing and validating their payloads. And TAFR was a fantastic organization. We used to send the people to TAFR, and towards the beginning of January 2025, we had a lot of delays where the customers used to ask, please help us in that direction, where the manpower at TAFR was a bit low to cater to the needs of the customers. And also when we look at the entire ecosystem outside, there was literally no one doing that activity, where we found that niche gap, and we said let's try to explore this. And when we first came out with the concept of let's do the company, then the point of what name arose. And there were a lot of names what I proposed to Sirish, but then at a point we both were of the concept that we should not put something like traditional sky meaning sky or traditionally meaning space. So we came up with the concept and said let's try to put something different. And Sirish said there's a movie called Red Balloon, an Oscar award winner from the 1950s, a fantastic movie, and we watched it together. And then we found out that that was showcasing the persistence of a kid with the balloon. And that is what we do with our airships, basically positioning the airship at a particular position and having persistent either surveillance or communication capabilities. And we like the name Red Balloon. That's the reason when Sirish proposed it, within a few seconds I said yes, let's go for it. And we put the name as Red Balloon Aerospace. So that was the main triggering point. And it had the only meaning of persistence, which we liked a lot, and that's what we put it there.
So you hold a patent on thin but super strong material for stratospheric balloon. In simple term, what problem does this solve that other balloon material couldn't?
So one of the most important point in the entire lighter than air platform technology is what we are doing is the materials. The materials are very, very vital for the entire lighter than air platforms. And in order to create any of these lighter than air platforms, the balloon material, or basically the lighter than air platform, should be able to withstand the tense atmospheric pressure and temperature conditions which prevail along the whole journey as well as at that altitudes. And basically the material should be able to withstand minus 90, minus 80 degrees without any problems. In addition to that, it should also be having the capability of not getting torn. So it needs to have high strength. So we need to make a material which is having higher strength. We need to make a material which is having higher temperature withstanding capabilities as well as the pressure capabilities. So then we came up with the concept of everyone tries to do it individually. But what is the concept of whether we try to combine it all together? And fortunately, my PhD topic and my master's thesis topic is in the field of nanocomposites, where I had worked on similar class of polymer metal nanocomposites, different types of composites, nanocomposites. That helped me a lot to design the entire layered materials, what we are trying to what we have patented, filed a patent for. And instead of putting one single material as a single layered material for a zero pressure balloon, typically it is used, we used a multi-layered concept wherein 3 different layers are put forward, one layer catering to the needs of the gas not permeating out, one layer catering to the needs of the strength, and the other layer encapsulating all of these things and protecting the middle layer. So all 3 combined, both the strength, the gas permeability and everything inside one system is what we have created. And we filed the patent, we realized the material, and we have utilized that material also. So when I say balloon, people say, people have an imagination of a regular balloon.
Yeah.
It's not a rubber balloon, it's a different type of polymer what we use, and it is a scientifically advanced multi-layered nanocomposite what we have employed here. So it's not a single material which is there for the balloon, it's actually lobes of them. So each of these lobes are called gores in a technical term, and each of these gores are stitched to the other one. And when the process of stitching these things happen, we have also an additional layer which is the load bearing member. The balloons can't bear the weight of the payload, so we have also the load bearing members, and this is also filed for a provisional patent from our side. A provisional patent has been granted in fact for that. So the load bearing members are also manufactured in-house by us. So these load bearing members, we are the only company in the country doing it after TAFR. These load bearing members have the capability to take the payloads as low as 50 kilograms to as high as 25 tons. So basically the load bearing members bear the weight and the balloon just lifts it up. So that's what we have created, and that's what is the entire lighter than air platforms what we are doing.
So you have worked at German Research Institute, then ISRO, then Skyroot as a head of R&D. Three very different world. What is the one thing each place taught you?
Oh, Germany was a fantastic experience. 14 years I was there in Germany. Literally, I would say one of us. Like we learn a lot in one of us. I literally learned a lot there. One of the most important point what I learned over there is ethics, and that I would be grateful for all the people whom I have worked with. That ethics flows through my blood. And once I came back to India at ISRO, I felt in love with the materials what they have been working with. I was very much networking there, and I learned a lot of failure analysis. The way how the scientists at ISRO treat a failure and try to learn a lot from the failures was fantastic, simply what I learned over there. And then utilizing the actual experience of a product from R&D, what people do in real life scenarios like rockets, was a fantastic experience what ISRO gave me. And especially I learned a lot of rocket. I used to read a lot there. And once I moved from ISRO to Skyroot, that was it's a complete new world again, in a world where everything has to be done very fast. So moving from ISRO to Skyroot was a fantastic thing, where the Honorable Prime Minister in 2020 opened space for all private activities. When we came, both me and Sirish joined at the same time Skyroot. It was complete different. Startup culture, a race where people have to run, and the responsibility of or taking ownership of stuff was what I loved a lot. I used to take ownership of practically everything over there. That was a fantastic thing. Working very close with the founders, especially Pawan and Bharat, who were such youngsters, also gave a lot of insights what to do and how to take the organization from good to great. How do we think about such thing? But we never even thought that we would leave Skyroot, but it all happened quite organically, which led to the new branch. As people say, one major organization which is built, keeps on generating more leads, so that new organizations come up from the existing organization. So that's what Skyroot has been doing. Many organizations are coming out of, many startups are coming out of Skyroot now. I think that's also a good thing for the country.
So sir, have you ever thought that you and your friend Sirish would be starting a company?
No, it was never there at all. As I told you, it was quite organic, where out of the blue we were trying to help someone, where we had this idea. And of course, there was a lot of push whenever we had this idea. One motivator for all these things was Dr. Subhanand Rao. He was also the person who motivated Skyroot to be formed. He was the person, in fact, who cut the ribbon for Skyroot's first office. He was also a great motivator for us. He is now no more. He left us before even we started the company. But yeah, we have his blessings all through with us.
So you have helped India's first private rocket Vikram S. What one lesson from rocket that turned out to be completely wrong once your challenge became keeping something floating at 20 kilometers?
A very tough question to say. Rockets are totally different from balloons. Rockets, when they launch, it's practically 3-4 minutes, everything is done. So when a mistake is there in a rocket, we can never repair it. If a rocket carrying payloads goes, and that's it. If mistakes is there, that's it, that's the end of it. In our case, in the case of balloons, when we take something, we have the ability, whenever we do any of these airships or lighter than air platforms, we take it to an altitude of 25 kilometers or 50 kilometers, and we have the capability, if anything is wrong over there, we land it back and repair it and then take it back again. So that's one benefit what we have. It's not as ruthless as rockets are. So any technology which goes into space, one should bear in mind it is ruthless in nature. But to the favor of balloons, we have some leverage of, they are not as ruthless as rockets.
So, sir, when you have proposed this concept to the government about red balloon aerospace, so how, like, what kind of response did you get from them?
Initially, whenever any new technology, is proposed to anyone, people think it's a hype. For that matter, when even the fiber or internet came into existence, people thought it was always a hype. But gradually, as the physics proves it, so for example, after proving this one, it was a fantastic thing. The Honorable Minister of Civil Aviation was a fantastic motivation for us, the way he took the whole thing. And then the Member of the Parliament, Sri Krishna Devarayulu, and when we had a warm reception also from the Minister of State for Telecommunications, Pemasani. It was a fantastic, Sri Pemasani, it was a fantastic motivation how these, I would say, I would probably also give them a credit as young politicians took it forward in a much better way, and we feel that taking the entire thing from Vijayawada was a big step which also pushes the ecosystem. We want to build this infrastructure layer from India and own this layer. So that was one of the most important thing. And people started believing that once we proved that. So that was the point where the Vista launch on 27th of May, the mission Sana was a main thing what proved our tech. So that was the point where people changed their perception.
So, one question, like when you said to your family that you are going to quit Skyroot and you want to start your own company, how was the response from the family?
Yeah, so all of us, we never had the intention of coming out of Skyroot. My wife said, "Oh, I thought you would never leave Skyroot." And the same sort of a feeling was there even from my parents, because people never even imagined that I would leave Skyroot. But even though I left Skyroot, our heart always is there with the organization. Both me and Sirish are so much bonded with Skyroot. In fact, last week also I was there at Skyroot giving motivation for the next generation students who are joining Skyroot. And we are also going for the launch, and we really hope from the deepest of our heart that India becomes successful. As Skyroot becomes successful, India is successful, because the launch vehicle is the necessity of the hour. And we also try to help in the launches, because whenever we take any of these payloads or a rocket, basically, the rocket consists of multiple stages. The first stage of the rocket is typically used to reach 35-40 kilometers. And that consumes almost more than 50% of the weight of the rocket, which is actually the fuel. If you are able to take the rest of the rocket by using a balloon to that altitude and launching the rocket from that location, we would save 50% of the fuel, and also being green, and we are also able to cater to the economic benefit of the society, basically the customers. So that's also one of the applications which we would envisage in future. But more than all of these things, the response from the family wasn't so pleasant. But once we told them the idea that we are trying to do that, they were also excited about this. And we also did a lot of homework, because whenever an idea like that comes into mind of an individual, it's not that it's only the technical idea. A concept of the business model, the entire technical idea, everything has to mingle perfectly inside for a successful idea to become. And in that case, both of us put forward that, and we were convinced, and we also convinced our advisors, and then it went on further.
Sir, sunlight, extreme temperature, winds and near zero air pressure at 20 to 50 kilometer altitude have broken even well-funded project before yours like Google Loon. What does your material actually do differently, not the pitch deck version, the real science?
So real science, the important point is that it should be having the strength, it should be having the gas retaining capability, not to permeate the gas through it, and also that it should be withstanding the sunlight, basically the UV IR radiations which come there, and it should not get damaged during the whole process. So what we have designed all of these things into one layer getting is very difficult, which world has never achieved. So what we do is we do multi layers. So we join each and every of these layer as speciality with the other layer and form a multi-layered composite without losing any of the properties. So multi-layered nanocomposites is what we have devised with nanoparticles embedded in the matrix along with different types of layers which encapsulate the hydrogen. Since there are multiple lighter than air gases, two of the most prominent ones which people know throughout the world are hydrogen and helium. So retaining hydrogen is the toughest of all. So what we are trying to do is by the new material what we have created, we encapsulate this hydrogen and have the ability to retain this for over 6 months. In a similar way, when hydrogen is capable to be retained, helium is no problem at all, or any of the other gases, but reverse doesn't work. So we have done this material, and that's what is the material what we have used for the launch on 27th of May and proved the entire material that it works by encapsulating the gas for over the period whatever we have done.
So sir, when you are not working, how do you spend your day?
Oh, that's a tough question. So my hobbies also are aligned very lot with the technical aspects. So whenever I have time, one of the most important point, I love photography a lot, astrophotography. I try to model things, and I also try to devise equipment. That's what I like a lot. The most toughest things for me basically are the engines which are used in rockets. So nothing is tougher than that. So if anyone says something is difficult, I say no. Nothing is tougher than that, and everything has a solution. So that's the way we try to work. And my hobbies, typically I like to create stuff, automate stuff. So if you look at anything what we are trying to do by automating, by utilizing the technology, but at the same time we safeguard the security aspects. So that's what we do. And my hobbies are typically in that direction oriented, mostly technical.
So sir, when you say your platform is reusable, what does that actually mean? Are we talking about it's flying dozen of times, hundred of times, or staying up for years?
So the airships what we are trying to design are having the capability of staying there for over 6 months period of time, as long as the materials do not permeate the hydrogen out. At the same time, they are reusable. So that means after 6 months or after the gas has come down a particular level, we get it back to the earth safely, to the ground, refill the remaining hydrogen, or sometimes we are also envisaging of refilling that in near space itself from some specialized tanks over there, and then utilizing it for further long, basically extending the lifetime. And to the best of my understanding of what reusable, what we mean is that we want to keep them persistent over a fixed location, catering to persistent activities on the ground. That's one aspect of looking at reusable, landing it and taking it up. At the same time, we also have the capability of taking it from point to point and then landing the payloads, typically what people want, cargo landing. So these are the two types of reusability. So if you consider satellites, for example, when they take the payloads in their satellites, so what happens is that after the entire life cycle of a satellite, it has to enter the Earth's orbit gradually and it burns off. So the payloads are not recovered, you can't refurbish them, you can't repurpose them. If you want to have a new technology, you can't do that. So that's what we are trying to do, basically utilizing it over and over again.
Sir, India has tough geographical mountain remote region. Did that shape how you built this, or would this platform work anywhere in the world?
These platforms are made for anywhere in the world. Okay. So all the difficult terrains, for example in the northeast, or we have disasters which happen very frequently. In such cases also we have aerostats. These are called Altis platforms. Our airships are called Helix platforms, and tethered aerostats are called Altis platforms, and the balloons are called Vista platforms. The Altis platforms, the tethered aerostats, in difficult terrains, for example a disaster occurred region, we could host the entire aerostat within 2 hours, providing communications back as well as having entire surveillance capabilities for that region, so that rescue operations could be performed much better.
Okay. So one more question, like you have since childhood, have you like planned your profession? You have to be go there, or else you have landed up somewhere else.
Oh, a very tough question, I would say. So when I always used to study, I was more a scientist. So even from my childhood, I always wanted to be a scientist. In my 9th, 10th class, I was more fascinated about atomic science, basically nuclear science. I always wanted to go into the field of nuclear sciences, working in atomic research laboratories. But gradually, when I met people, it came out to the point, yeah, probably keeping my studies. I was always in the field of materials, right from my bachelor's. I never changed my course, but it doesn't mean, or it didn't mean, that I never learned anything new. I always went out with electronics. I learned a lot of electronics. I was more fascinated about computers, so practically I learned everything what was available at that time as a hobby. I used to assemble computers during my free time in my post my intermediate. And then during my BTech studies, I used to automate, or not automate, basically I used to digitalize our lab reports. That was a nice thing what I did, and many decades they used the lab reports as documents. And then when I went to in my bachelor's, I always used to do hardware. So I used to like a lot of hardware. I used to do web administration. I used to build websites for the university. At the same time, I used to like a lot of administrator activities. I learned it, and I used to build hardware firewalls eventually, and hardware servers, file servers. So that was my hobbies, by the way. When
So
you
you are
asked me,
completely a multitasking.
yeah, when someone says this is not possible, I say no, that's possible because I did it 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Definitely now it has much advanced. And that's the way I was brought up by my parents. I was a lot into science. I used to like a lot of activities where my mother used to go on field works. I used to accompany her most of the times whenever it was possible, collecting rock mineral samples. That's the reason I went into the field of metallurgy and materials. I studied here in Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Technology, Gandipet here, in the field of metallurgy and materials. I continued entire studies in the field of materials after in my masters in materials, PhD in the field of materials, specifically nanocomposites, polymer metal nanocomposites. Then there was a point where I wanted to solve a problem, where I challenged my professor also, and then he said, prove it to me. So I had to learn a new equipment, transmission electron microscope. I learned it. As soon as I learned it, new ideas came into me, where my ideas were quite costly. And one very nice professor, Professor Franz Foppel, was brought me into the field of nanocomposites. Then electron microscopy, where I tried to solve problems. Professor Lorenz Kienle brought me in there. All of them from the University of Kiel. And there I said one of the most important problem today is energy, where I wanted to study about energy materials and why. Basically it all triggered from a mobile phone. At that point of time, mobile phones, even today for that matter, don't work beyond 2 years effectively as when you bought it. How do you increase the lifetime? And the basic problem was the batteries. The batteries die off very fast. So at that point I said, no, let's try to solve the problem why these batteries fail. And I wanted to do that with a multidisciplinary approach of multi-level characterization, where I learnt in situ electron microscopy, and I created a new course there in Germany. Then moved from University of Kiel to Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. There I was heading the in situ electron microscopy group over there with Christian Kubel, a very close friend of mine, and Professor Horst Hahn. A lot of ethics. It was what Germany brought into me. I had huge amount of publications. Almost by the time I reached India, I had, I think, around 40 or so was my H index. When I joined ISRO, it was a complete different world. Then my perception of research changed, where I said I want to utilize whatever I do in research in practical scenarios. So when I moved to ISRO, I wanted to, after the working style over there, I wanted to use the research what I did into real life scenarios, where Skyroot gave me that opportunity. And now I'm really proud to say that whatever I did in University of Kiel in polymer metal nanocomposites and polymer nanocomposites, I've utilized it effectively by creating a product, especially in Red Balloon Aerospace, where the materials, the entire brain for me was stemmed from my master's and PhD work, where I could able to get this material realized very fast. Otherwise, there are companies who have taken 5 years, 10 years to create their first lighter than air platforms.
So one more question, like most of our viewers want to know. So how did you, Pawan and Sirish met, and like you might be having a sweet memories with them, right?
Absolutely, lots of sweet memories. So when I think Sirish came few days before me and met Pawan before he joined Skyroot, and when I met Pawan, it was when I was at ISRO. I took out the opportunity to meet him, and when I first met him, I said, I want to work, but I'm not sure whether I'll be a right fit. And then when I joined Skyroot, I had the opportunity to work with Sirish very closely, pretty close, and we all four of us were part of the founding team, where we used to interact a lot in the initial days with I think around 30 employees or so, 30-40 employees. Yeah, it was a fantastic experience. Everything what we used to do, the organization was not someone else's, it was ours. So that point of saying this organization where I am working is mine leads to improvement of the organization, and that's what we also have even carry today. Whenever we look for any new employees or any new people, what we look at is the passion in them and the obsession in them to create something. And we are trying to build this infrastructure now, and we think also the people who join should be obsessed with that type of working style. And it's difficult to find employees or people with that mindset. And once we find such people, the organizations runs like a horse, I would say.
So one more question. Companies like Worldview and other global players are working on similar tech. Does being based in India help you or put you in disadvantage?
It's rather the other way around. It's actually an advantage, because there are many benefits of running the organizations from within the country, from India especially. And besides that, this race what we are running is a race where every country is now doing. It's not that someone is ahead of us, someone is before us. As of now, Worldview has proved it almost like 49 days or so for their endurance. Many people are trying to do the same race. So it's all the game of materials, how we improve these materials over and over again to get the best out of it. So that race is what we are doing, and India has definitely a strategic advantage. Currently, in the current scenario where the whole world is looking upon India, so many startups in the space ecosystem, over 400 startups, and all of these things working together interdependently is what leads to a product which is world should look upon it. And I'm pretty sure that we are going to change that.
So sir, like you often say, one earth, one space. So could you please tell our viewers about this?
So one of the most important point which I always resonate as part of also the common fellowship which I was awarded in 2025, or for that matter always, is that whenever for example I come from from a place and I go to Delhi and I say, hi, I am from a particular location. So I say I am from Vijayawada, I am from Hyderabad, or I am from Bangalore. But when you go from Delhi to an event in for example in the US, I say I am from India. We never say I am from Bangalore or I am from Chennai, right? So, but now when we go to space, what do we say? We still say I am from US, And that mentality should go from the mankind, and one should say, I am from earth. Because the point of being one is what is very important for that activity. For example, now in future probably we will be ending up doing space tourism activities. In such a scenario, what would happen is that when we go with an international team in a capsule to near space using a balloon, people from different nationalities will be there in that. So we should introduce ourselves when we go to space as I am from Earth, rather than saying I am from a particular country. So that is what unites us. That is my feeling, and I think our group captain Kushubanshu Shukla also resonates the same feeling from our previous discussions, and there are a lot of people throughout the world who have the same feelings. And this oneness is what unites the world, and with less problems.
So sir, what message would you like to give to our youngsters?
So I always keep saying the same thing. One important point which everyone should do your homework. Don't say homework is done by my AI assistant, but rather my homework is mine and I have to do that. At the same time, whatever you do it with passion. Give your 100%, not 90%. This 100% passion turns into obsession, and everything is ours. If something falls on the ground, clean it. It's our mess what we have created, and that is what leads you to next level. And with this, I would say simply one word: Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful opportunity which you have given us. Thank you.
Thank you, and Jai Hind.